Hi there, it's Kathie. Thank you so much for joining me. So today I have some alternative cards featuring the November 2022 Paper Pumpkin Kit. We're going to get started, and please note that I am using some of the parts from the October kit as well, and you'll see that as we create the cards. All right, so the first card, I'm using that green glittery banner, and I've actually penciled in what I'm going to be cutting out. So the card is going to have some trees. So that's what I've kind of drawn out. So some little fat trees, little small trees. I basically tried to use every part of this glittery banner because it's actually really pretty. And yeah, so I'm going to have some little trees, big trees, and medium-sized trees. So this next one is a small tree. And then I do have 4 of the larger trees. The bottom part measures about an inch. Just so you have an idea of how wide I went with these trees. And then afterwards, I'm just going to show you the waist after cutting up the banner. I have 4 of the large trees mapped out, but I only end up using 3, and then I'll use the 4th one to create some more holly leaves, and I'll show you that afterwards. I also drew out some holly leaves, as you can see there, and I'm just gonna cut those out as well. So this card, I'm using 3 of the candy cane die cut pieces, the Happy Holiday Sentiment, the Santa hat, and what we're going to do is kind of get all our elements together, and then we'll just raise them with some dimensionals. Now the tree part with the triangle shapes. Oh, there's that little section in the corner there showing you all the pieces that we're not going to be using. So I didn't waste too much, I don't think. Okay, so first off, I'm going to stick down the holly leaves that I created onto the hat. I do need some berries, so I decided to use the dots on that particular tag. So with Real Red, I started off coloring in that dot, and then afterwards I just kind of popped them out and started coloring them in by itself. All right, so once I'm finished coloring those in, I'm going to use the cherry cobbler and just kind of throw a dot over onto the side of each of these berries. And then we're just going to glue them down. And I actually really like how the hat turned out just by itself. Anyway, we're going to dress it up a bit more, and I decided to raise it with dimensionals, as I mentioned earlier, and I did stick this piece down first as the focal point, and now I'm just gonna stick dimensionals on each one of the candy canes, but I'm not going to stick it down. I just want to map everything out before I decide to adhere everything. Now the trees, we're going to call them Christmas trees. You can leave them like triangles, or you can add more details. So I decided to kind of cut along the edge of each tree to create more of a tree-like look. You'll see what I mean. And then the other thing that I did was I grabbed crushed curry, and as you can, I don't know if you can tell, but there's 3 trees that has a slightly different hue, and you probably could tell. And to me, it wasn't worth doing because all it did was get my fingers super inky, and I did get a little bit on the panel itself. You can't quite see it, but I can see it. It's near the bottom of the panel. But anyway, I don't know. I think maybe if you tried a red, it might come out better, but I just didn't want to test it out any further. So you can basically just skip that part unless you actually like that different hue color there. It's not super noticeable in person, but you may be able to kind of see it on screen. And because I did it, I know which one it is, and you may be able to recognize it. And unfortunately, I didn't strategically place the 3. Anyway, so I'm actually cutting out the detail. It is a bit tedious, to tell you the truth, to add that additional detail to each one of those triangle trees, but I think it gives it more of a realistic look. Well, slightly, but instead of it looking kind of flat, it's got a little more oomph to it. So to me, it was kind of worth doing. I didn't do the itty bitty tiny little triangles. I did do it to the medium sized tree and the largest tree. Once I'm finished shaping all of the trees, I then add the dimensionals to them and then kind of fuss a little bit and decide how I want to place them. And then I do leave the bottom part to last because that's where I got some ink at the bottom of the panel, and that's where that fourth big tree comes into play. And you can see it at the top of the screen there. It's just sitting there by itself. I do end up cutting out two more holly leaves. And the first one, you'll notice that I just kind of hacked away at it. I did not draw it out, and it came out really lopsided. But still, I just accepted it because, you're just giving that illusion of holly leaves. And I think it works. The second one, I did draw it out with my pencil. All right. So while you're watching me fuss about with this card, it is time consuming, to tell you the truth, but it was well worth it. I really like how it turned out. Really sparkly. All right. So what's been happening with me? Well, I helped my husband move out of his shop, and that was just grueling, like grueling. That's all I'm going to say. And yes, he managed to get out on the 11th hour. And during that time, I actually started the carnivore diet because I was kind of feeling crappy. And I've done keto. I've done that a couple times, and I just found that it was just too much of this, that, and the other, balancing everything out. So I thought I'd try the carnivore diet because I'm more of a meat person, opposed to, having carbs all the time. I could skip that for the most part. So anyway, I thought I'd try it, and I basically started in November, like November 1st. So it's been over a month, and yeah, gosh, I feel so much better. I feel so much better in the gut. I feel so much better in the head. I do take electrolytes, which I wish I knew earlier. I mean, I knew about it, but I didn't know that I could just drink it. And so I should have been drinking that regardless, because remember I mentioned I got gout and I was on this water pill, and maybe a bit too long. So it basically took all the water out of my system, and so it kind of put me out of balance water-wise, and the electrolytes would have definitely helped. Anyway, I feel so much better, and this weird thing with my head, when I lower it, it makes me kind of feel nauseous, and now I feel so much better. I don't know if it was the electrolytes. I think it is. So I drink like two 20-ounce containers of that with the water. I mix it with the powder. I bought the one called Key Nutrients. I wanted to try the Element one, but that's super expensive. Anyway, feeling better, losing weight, about 25, 26 pounds since, so it's been a good month. And hopefully I'll be able to continue with it. Trying to get my husband on it, but he's kind of a carb man. But we shall see if he kind of caves in one day. And, because I'm cooking all the food and he's eating it along with his carbs, but I'm not going to push the issue. All right, so back to this card. I decided to create some more berries, but this time I pulled out like a hole punch and colored them in. So these little berries are a little bit smaller, but it'll do. And then there's the sentiment that came in the kit, just deciding on where to stick that. And before I do, I just grabbed some sequins that I had in my stash. And I was going to put a few, but then I decided to go crazy and just add a whole whack of it around the card, just to add a bit more interest to it. And then I thought I'd try that little fancy pick-me-up pen thingy I bought from Amazon. Actually works quite good, and it's light and it's pretty. So yeah, I thought it was a nifty little gadget. All right, so once I'm happy with the placement of everything, I do stick it down with some glue. And yeah, I think after that, I stick down the sentiment, and then I stick it onto a top folding card base. So there's the glue. I'm using that berry, I don't know, what is it called? It's the berry glue one. And I like how it comes out nice and thin. It's always on the ready, but I have like a shot glass, and I put a wet paper towel in it. And when I take the pin out and I'm using the glue, I don't put the pin back in because it takes forever. And then I have to, take off my glasses because that's an itty bitty little hole. So when I take the pin out, I have a wet paper towel in a shot glass. When you finish using your glue, you just put it in the shot glass and make sure it touches the wet paper towel. And that way the glue does not dry up in the little metal skinny piece there, because that's super duper annoying, right? All right, so here's the finished card. Absolutely love how it turned out. And yeah, time consuming, but satisfying. All right, on to the second card. I have crumb cake, soft suede. I have a scrap piece of Whisper White, 2 of the circle pieces or die cut pieces that came in the kit, real red card panel there, and I have a candy cane. So on that scrap piece of paper, it's about a good inch. I just traced the bottom part of the candy cane because I'm going to need that. And then with a black Stampin' Write marker, I'm just going to draw along the edge and then cut the piece out. And I wasn't too happy with it after I reshaped the edge there. I just want to make sure it's nice and, curved and not kind of lumpy. I decided to draw the line detail again, but then I didn't like it again. So I just accepted the second one that I drew out. Okay, with Smoky Slate and the large round die cut piece and a sponge dauber, I can't quite trust myself yet with the blending brushes. I'm so used to the sponge daubers, and this dauber is just really worn out and it's just creating all these little scratchy lines. So I pulled out a brand new one, and what I want to do here is create a good shadow underneath the small circle die cut piece, and that is going to give you some depth. As you can slightly see, it's starting to show some depth there. I was just being really careful and not go too crazy past the circle. I do go back afterwards and add more. All right, so with the small circle piece, starting off with crumb cake, I was carefully adding the color in the center of this piece and then going out to the edges, but not past the lines. So you want to keep the lines or the space outside of the line clean as best as you can. Of course, I got some on there, so I grabbed my eraser and erased whatever I could see. And now I'm using the soft suede to get the center part darker. I could use a marker. While I was doing this, I was thinking about pulling out, the brown marker and just coloring it in. It would have been way faster, but it might have been just too dark and there was no depth, with different variations of color. So here's the eraser that I pulled out just to clean the edges a bit more. And it could stand to be maybe a bit more darker because, as it dries, it lightens, but I think it's okay. All right, so I did go back again with the gray, like I mentioned earlier. And this piece is from the October kit. And I'm going to use this to create the creme or the cream on top of your coffee. And because it's kind of a Christmassy card, I figured this was more suitable than throwing like a heart shape or something. And I did use the white pigment ink to create that, and it works really well. And there's that little piece that I traced out, and that turned out to be the handle for the cup, teacup, mug, whatever. And so I raised that little small centerpiece, and then I reinforced the handle with a glue dot. Right, so here's the candy cane, and I pre-tied the bow with my favorite gold twine, and I pulled out my glue dots to stick down the bow. It is 3 strands, and I tied it as tiny as I could, proportioned to the card. And now I'm sticking more glue dots onto the candy cane. And it's that glue dot's just really sticking onto my tweezers there. And I decided not to raise the candy cane. You want the candy cane to be sitting on top of your little cup dish, right? So it would kind of look weird if I raised it with dimensionals. All right, so the sentiment, I was going to do something else, but I wanted something a little strong that's kind of proportioned to this cup design. And so I used the ho 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 that came in the kit. And the card needed just a little bit of bling. So I pulled out the almost last remaining of the original basic jewels that Stampin' Up! Used to sell that has all the different sizes. I kind of missed that. So yeah, a little bling to the card. And the panel is cut down about 1/4 inch around so that we have a nice white border on the top folding card base. So super nice card. I really like how it turned out. You can maybe add a pearl, a big pearl, small pearl in your coffee there if you want for something else, a little more extra oomph to it. Yeah. All right, on to the final card. And I'm using the Stamparatus, as you can tell, or maybe you don't know or haven't noticed, but I hardly use the Stamparatus. And I've got like maybe 3 or 4 of them, but they're all different from different companies. And the Stamparatus actually works quite well. I'm just inking up the outside of this stamp with real red. And the parts that I've missed, I'm just going to go over it. And I keep going over the wrong side. And yeah, eventually I get it. So yeah, again, I missed the top part. And it just kind of backwards, So finally I got it. You basically don't really want to get the reindeer image in there, especially the back leg. So just be careful with that. Now you are going to cover it up with the next piece, but I just wanted to get it to the point where I didn't have to fuss too much with that leg. This part here where I'm cutting away this piece, I was really struggling with it. So I decided to cut out the circle as neatly as I can. I didn't bother looking to see if I had like a die to cut out this size. So carefully cut out the circle piece to remove the excess. And then once that's done, we're going to cut out the center. And as you can tell, I'm still struggling because you just can't cut in that direction for some weird reason. So I'm cutting, so I'm still trying to go clockwise, but no, you have to go counterclockwise. So I'm cutting as close as I can, but messily. if that's such a word. And once I finish going around that, then I'm able to get in there. I mean, I could be wrong in general, okay? But now I'm going under, so maybe it might have worked the other way too. I'm going under and close to the edge and cleaning up the edge as well so that it looks much neater. But it actually kind of worked that way. All right, so that's finally finished. And I did connect the lines off screen. As you can tell, the lines are kind of connected. It doesn't have to be too perfect because it's going to get covered up with the Santa sleigh. And that is from the October kit. And I don't know if you noticed, but I did not use the Santa sleigh in any of my alternatives for October. Now, I'm using this envelope as well, and I actually cut my finger on this trimmer right about now. Ow. So I just kept bleeding, and I had to stop the video and tend to my cut and go and find some bandages. So yes, it's the next day, and my finger still hurts. That blade is super sharp. Okay, so there's the envelope piece that I cut down, and you probably noticed the dimensions I pointed out. And then I have this gold ribbon. There's the number, really pretty. It's in the clearance section in Stampin' Up, and it's like $4.40 Canadian. And I picked this one even before it went on sale. Hello. And because it's super sparkly. So just cutting a piece out, and then I'm going to stick it down on the back of the panel, and hopefully it looks pretty straight. And then back to the little donut piece that I cut out. And we're going to raise that with some dimensionals and place it onto the green edge scallop. And we're going to stick it down first before I fuss with the Santa sleigh. I basically decided to place it kind of straight, like pretty straight when you look at it, and then angled the Santa sleigh just to cover up the back leg section. And then I stuck it onto a side folding card base. So super easy. I decided not to add any bling to it because of the gold ribbon. Really like how that one turned out. And then suddenly I got all these other ideas, but the new kit's coming soon. I hope you enjoyed today's card share. Thanks so much for joining me. Bye for now.